Good evening, everyone. This is Patricia Hamilton, and I hope everyone is doing okay. Today, we're going to do a study, but before we begin, I'm going to have a prayer thought, read a prayer thought. The prayer thought states, would that all who have not chosen Christ might realize that he has something vastly better to offer them than they are seeking for themselves. Man is doing the greatest injury and injustice to his own soul when he thinks and acts contrary to the will of God. No real joy can be found in the path forbidden by him who knows what is best and who plans for the good of his creature. The path of the transgression leads to misery and destruction. The path of transgression leads to misery and destruction, but wisdom's ways are way of pleasantness, and all her path are peace. So what it's simply stating here is that if we would understand that God knows what's best for us, and he does nothing to cause us injury, we would make the better choices by not doing what we want to do, thinking that we know what is best. But if we allow the Lord, he will never do anything that would cause us pain. Since he knows the end from the beginning, he is the one that would direct. And ultimately, when this situation is manifested itself, then we'll see that God did it for the best of us and for us. So with that in mind, I'll have a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you so very much for the life that you've given us. You loved us so much and continue to love us that all you ask us to do is surrender and give you control so you can direct and guide our lives. Forgive us where we have strayed or we have kept our will from you, and help us from today to make a new decision that will surrender to you. Thank you again for your mercies and your continual blessings. In your son's name, amen. Now, the topic today is choosing a life partner. Now, we have the situation where in this world, this is where we belong, whatever country we live in, we have our own views. We learn this from the environment that we live in, the places that we have been. So we call those worldviews. We are easily influenced in a wrong way just by living in the culture you live in. Believe it or not, most of us have been influenced by the popular culture. Remember, that's all we know. And even in our household, that's what we learn. So we are influenced, we assimilate and acculturate to the culture in which we live in. Hollywood, which is the movie that we watch, Hollywood influences American culture in a very powerful way as it relates to its subject or this subject of dating and marriage. We watch a movie, the people, it's a 2-hour movie now. They'll start at, let's say the movie begins at 8 o'clock. They meet, they date or whatever it is they do. And by 10 o'clock, the movie is over and they're married or they're living together happily ever after. And we inculcate this in our mind, thinking that, oh, it's just a bed of roses. We meet, we love each other, we fell in love, and this is what it is. But that's not so. And that's what's affecting most of us and our children today. What we see on TV, which is unreal. Here are some of the things to consider that we come in contact with now. How many love songs have we heard in your life? Probably thousands. You know, even as when we become Christians, we think we don't remember, but if we go in an environment where the music is playing, we take that on too. How many TV programs have we watched dealing with dating and marriage? I'm quite sure it's hundreds of them. How many movies have we seen that promote Hollywood ideas rather than God ideas? Hollywood idea and how to choose your husband or wife is to allow emotions alone to be the supreme factor in this decision on who we marry. Hollywood process is that you fall in love, and when you find that person, something will just snap and you will know. And that's what we are taught. Oh, it was love at first sight. I knew from the time I saw you, you were to be my spouse. You are just wonderful. And we get these preconceived ideas from what we watch, what we hear. Remember, we learn from our senses. Now, man's concept, these are the outcome of us believing and behaving according to the culture. So let us call it what it is. It's a lie. It's ridiculous. Nobody meets 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock. They fall in love as it's stated, and they live happily ever after. They never understood and knew each other. They have no concept of what that is. It's just emotions. And emotions is something that goes up and down. It's mad, glad, sad, happy. If I'm hungry, I'm sad. If you give me something to eat, I'm happy. And it's temporary. And so when we go with these relationships like that, it's ridiculous. That is not how to choose your husband or wife. You meet someone, you fall in love, then you put your dreams and your life in a feeling. Love is a decision that one makes, not how you feel. Not, oh, I feel like you're my soulmate. I feel. Remember, those emotions are temporary. I am not just saying that feelings never accompany love, but love based just on feelings will lead you into making a mistake. Now, in that context, it's simply saying, you know, you have to be able to see that individual. When you see that individual, you kind of have a sense that I would like to talk to that person. I would like to get to know that person. That's where the emotion comes in. But it's not for us to base it. And from feeling that way, then you get to talking to the person and you know it. But you can't build the emotions. I feel this. Because what happens when the disappointment comes in? See? So what it's saying is, I'm not just saying feelings never accompany love. But love based on just feelings will lead you to making a mistake. The greatest love ever demonstrated was Christ's love for us on the cross. We know that was so because his decision to obey, not his feelings. Now, he could have said, remember when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane and he said, not my will, you know, drops of blood coming from the sweat. Of course, he was afraid because remember, his humanity is the humanity that was manifesting itself. But he made a decision. I'm going to die for them. Not because they're good, not because they're wonderful, but because I've made a decision that I want to love them, that I'm going to give them a chance to be able to experience what Adam and Eve had before sin and what true love is. So that's the reason why. And so this little other stuff is just what man's say. Now let's look at what happens to the man-made concepts. You know, the ones we watch on TV, or we hear the love song and we all fall in love. Let's see the outcome. Remember, this is man's thoughts. The outcome. It brings degeneration. The marriage relation is holy. God made it holy. But in this degenerate age, it covers vileness of every description. And we're going to look at that, the vile behavior. It is abused and has become a crime, which now constitute one of the signs of the last days, even as marriages managed as they were in the previous to the flood, they were then crimes. And what he was saying, in the time of the flood, or before the flood, way down after creation, the mankind had become so evil. We are told that they thought their thoughts were evil continuously. They get to bed they wake up, they're evil. They go to bed, they're evil all day long. And because of that, they abuse this holy marriage relationship that God brought Eve, created her and brought her to Adam. And it was something beautiful. That's what God had intended. But now you got two men marrying, you got two women marrying. That's how vile it has become. Then you got all kinds of things that are brought into the marriage relationship. Pornography. You think of all of these filthy things that have taken place inside of their marriage. And inside of that, you also have abuse, physical, emotional, psychological abuse, all because the degradation, and we separated and removed ourselves from the principles that God have in place by listening to the voices on the outside and what the TV and what the society in which we live in. And of course, Satan is at the root of it. Satan is constantly busy to hurry inexperienced youth into a marriage alliance. But the less we glory in the marriages which are now taking place, the better. When the sacred nature and claims of marriage are understood, it will even now be approved in heaven, and the results will be happiness to both parties, and God will be glorified. And that's coming from Testimonies to the Church, Volume 2, page 252. And it's simply saying, is Satan's plan. He gets people, and it's not just the youth. You got older people that are remarrying or marrying, and they don't stop to say, you know, what have I learned? Or what is this about? They just run into it. And that's what, remember, we love each other because society teaches you don't have to take long. So that's what's happening. But it's saying that until we really are aware of its sacredness and what God intended, we're going to always have trouble. Then it also brings deception. He, Satan, is busily engaged in influencing those who are wholly unsuited for each other to unite their interests. So the person is thinking, remember, Satan is doing this. The person is thinking, oh, you're just what I need. You're my soulmate, without even knowing the person. And that's what she's saying here. There is influencing those who are wholly unsuited. So if we get people that are unsuited for each other, one is doing this, the other one is doing that, this one have that belief, this one have that idea, and none of the principles that the Bible gives us is in place. Then you got somebody hating each other, and it doesn't take 6 months after the honeymoon. Just a few months or a few days, you begin to see the issues and what's creating the problem. He exalts in this work, for by it he can produce more misery and helplessness. Woe to the family than, he exalts in this work For by it he can produce more with misery and helpless woe to the human family than by experiencing or exercising his skill in any other direction. Courtship, as carried on in this age, is a scheme of deception and hypocrisy. Now, why is that? The persons that are entering this present a persona that they're this type of person when they're really not. That's what causes the deception and hypocrisy. You're really one person, and because we're not following the will of God, we actually believe that this is just a wonderful person. They just fit me. This is what God has sent, when it's hypocrisy. They're doing one thing and claiming to be another. It says, with which this kind of behavior is with which the enemy of the soul has far more to do with than the Lord. The Lord wouldn't put, and truly, if a person has dedicated themselves to the Lord and he's choosing the partner for them, he wouldn't have that individual, even in courtship, being a deceptive individual and showing hypocrisy, showing this part of the character, but believing another part. It wouldn't be, and that's what the statement is saying. Good common sense is needed here, if anywhere. But the fact is, it has little to do with the matter. Most of the time, we're using the common sense. Oh, we love each other. This is what's going to happen. And we never stop and say, let me see what this person is really like, or what am I projecting to that person, because I can also be a hypocrite and being deceptive, and it's all lies. We are to take notice. For every lawful, God-given privilege, Satan has a counterfeit to suggest. So, but because we so wrapped up in emotions, we don't see the devil working. And remember, it's not going to be a savage individual. It's going to be a person that we thought, oh, is he tall, dark, and wonderful? Does he have a good job? These are the things. Satan is not going to bring you somebody that's deliberately wicked at the beginning. The person, remember, that's why it's called deception and hypocrisy. The person is going to present to the what we have been talking about. We tell our friends, oh, I would like the person to be this way and that way. And the devil hears. And he manufactured that person and brings that person. And then oh, the Lord sent this individual. When it's a counterfeit. And so that's what it's saying. Satan has a counterfeit to suggest. The holy, pure thought he seeks to replace with impure thoughts. For sanctity of the marriage love, he would substitute permissiveness, unfaithfulness, excess, perversion, negative premarital relationship, adultery, animalism, in and outside the marriage, and homosexuality. So what the servant of the Lord is saying is that he presents counterfeit. And then he tells us, it's okay for you to kiss and, be in an intimate way with this person. God understands. Remember, the Bible said it's better to marry than to burn. Or remember, the Lord said it's not good for man to be alone. And when it says man, we're talking about mankind. And so he tells us that and use the scriptures, and we fall for that. Then you got unfaithfulness. Because we fell for the permissiveness, then you got unfaithful, because they all run together. Then you got excess in sexuality, excess in everything that we do, because we're told we have to be temperate. But the devil says, it's okay, you love each other. And then you got perversion. The Lord have guidelines for his people and the way sexuality inside of the marriage should take place. But he brings perversion. The married, God's people are participating in filthy sexual activities, which is contrary to his will, but that's what the devil do. Then you got negative premarital relationship. You got adultery. And I don't think people understand that if the partner, you're married, and that person is watching pornography or whatever they're doing out there, it's adultery. And you know, the Lord tells us, if you lust in your heart against another person, you stand out of the marriage relationship. But we don't look at it because he's perverted our sights and he's perverted the marriage, and everybody is doing it. And remember, we're learning it from the society in which we live in. Animalism, the participation of things that are contrary to the will of God in sexuality, and it's okay because we're married. We can do these things, and it brings out the animal behavior in the human being, contrary to the will of God. And this is inside and outside of the marriage. And of course, homosexuality. It's prevalent. Nobody cares. Everything you watch, they throw a little bit in there, and we are becoming desensitized. And we think it's okay. Now, we're not beating up on the people that claim to be gay. It is the behavior. It is not okay. We don't take the person that I can't speak to you because you're home. That's not what it's saying. We still love that individual. We just don't like what they're doing because it's contrary to the will of God. God made, when you look, Adam and Eve. And nowhere in the Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, has that changed. So therefore, anything we do of any of these are contrary, and it's from the devil. But he's subtle, and he's not going to come straight forward and let us see that. Little by little, we find ourselves in that, and that's what's taking place. Most people now, they don't wait until they enter the marriage relationship to participate in sexuality. And this is Christians and non-Christians. They start because the devil tells them it's okay, or society says it's okay. And I'm doing pretty good, and I did that. The violation of the seventh commandment also was early practice in the name of religion. That's all before the flood, like it is now. It was Satan's studied effort to pervert the marriage institution, to weaken its obligation and lessen its sacredness. For in no surer way could he deface the image of God in man and open the door to misery and vice. He knew if he could break down that relationship, what mankind would look like. It would not be in the order that God, and he think he would have won. And right now he feels he has, because not only are the individuals in the world doing it, we as Christians have allowed ourselves to be participant in this type of behavior. God's plan for the human family. We know what we talked about just now, mankind's plan. But now this is God's plan for this human family, for us. This was what he had from the beginning. He gave Eve to Adam as a helpmeet. You didn't see Steve and Eve. You saw Eve and Adam as helpmeet. Performed his first miracle at the marriage festival. You remember when he went to Canaan and the marriage celebration was taking place, his mother was there and they ran out of wine. He blessed that because I'm talking about the marriage relationship. And that's why he presented himself at that wedding. And so Christ began in the festive hall where friends and kindred rejoiced together. Christ began his public ministry. Thus, he sanctioned marriage, recognizing it as an institution that he himself had established. He did it at the beginning. When he created Adam, you know the story. And after he made Adam, and Adam named, and he made the trees and all the animals, and Adam named them. It went on to say, God looked at Adam. Everybody had a partner. The animals did and everything except Adam. And he decided to give him a helpmeet. And of course, you know the story. He took the rib from Adam to make his wife. Now, he didn't take it from Adam's foot so he could kick his wife and call her names, or took the brain. He took it side, the ribs, so that he'll know that they're a unit. They're two individuals with the same thinking towards heavenwards. Not I'm in charge and you. It was decided that they were equal. And one could bring one to the other information, and the other, and together they become a whole person according to Christ. And so he ordained it, and that was his plan. But the devil know that if he can get to mankind through the marriage, he got the family. And you got most of the children that they don't know who their dad, they don't know who are their dad. Some mothers are gone, children are in foster care, and all of that deterioration, all because we have not followed the blueprint. He ordained that men and women should be united in holy wedlock to rear families whose members, crowned with honor, should be recognized as members of the family above. Christ honored the marriage relation by making it also a symbol of the union between him and his redeemed one. You see, it's something wonderful if we would confine it to the principles that God had put in place. Adam and Eve. Knowing this, how does a person choose a life partner? Knowing all the degradation, all of the dysfunctional behavior, all the things that are going on, and all of it is out of the will of God, how does one choose a life partner? If those who are contemplating marriage would not have miserable, unhappy reflections after marriage, they must make it a subject of serious, earnest reflection now, not frivolous. Oh, we love each other. We think we will do. Serious. This step taken unwisely is one of the most effective means of ruining the usefulness of young men and women, and also adults, other individuals that are marrying in a later life. Life becomes a burden, a curse. No one can so effectively ruin a woman's happiness and usefulness and make life a hard, sickening burden as her own husband. And no one can do 100 part as much to chill the hopes and aspiration of a man, to paralyze his energies and ruin his influence and prospect as his own wife. So what the servant of the Lord is saying, when we make unwise decisions, it ruins the woman as well as the man. And you got two damaged, broken individuals that are never any good anymore unless the Lord intervenes, because they take that baggage from that hurt, from the first marriage or whatever, and they take it into the next partner. And then the next partner becomes the sounding board, or whatever board they want to use that person for, from all of these things taken care. And so little by little, the relationship. And then some people end up with same sex because the marriage didn't work. So it's horrible when we choose. And of course, this is one of the devil's plan, to get people to be unhappy and to stay unhappy, so they never understand and fulfill the will of God. And so all these mistakes are made. It goes on to say, but you can choose your life partner. Let's see how. They're vital in choosing this partner. They're vital things to consider, not, as I said, emotional, according to the TV, frivolous. They are vital factors that we need to look at before we go and choose a partner. So we need to look at number one, God should do the choosing. But a lot of times we don't want to, because this is how we do. Lord, I want the man to have this job. I want the woman to be like this. I want the beauty to be this way. And so even when God do the choosing, we don't want what God have chosen because it doesn't match our fantasy, our expectations. And we don't want to be bothered, so we step out of his will. But the first thing when you're contemplating a relationship is God should do the choosing. Marriage is something that will influence and affect your life, both in this world and the life to come. In meaning that if we don't choose the right partner or allow the Lord, we're not going to make it, or we're not going to be saved, because whatever the outcome is, it's going to affect us. If we become angry, mean, unlikable individuals, that's the personality we think we're going to continue to have, and we cannot be saved like that. A sincere Christian will not advance his or her plan, in this direction without the knowledge that God approves of his course. We have to put the Lord in the beginning. And a lot of times, the reason why we jump up and choose, and we say we, because I've had that experience before I knew the Lord. So part of what I'm saying here, I had to learn for myself. But what it's saying here is we would put God in the beginning. Father, I would like a spouse. I don't know how to choose. Father, you know all the mistakes and the decisions that I've made that are contrary to your will. Please. And then we talk to the Lord. However, we won't wait because we think as we pray now, the Lord need to answer us. We don't give the Lord, and a lot of times it's a test to see, are we truly going to trust him? But it says a sincere Christian will not advance his plan in this direction without the knowledge that God approves this course. He or she now, will not wait to choose for him or herself, but will feel that God must choose for him or her. Not what I think or they think, but what does God want? They will be willing to wait. We are not to please ourselves, for Christ pleased not himself. I would not be understood to mean that anyone is to marry one whom he does not love. That's not what the servant of the Lord is saying. This would be a sin. But yet you got people marrying because of what the other person can do for them financially, or it's better than being alone. The things that we have done in the sight of God. But fancy and emotional nature must not be allowed to lead on to ruin. God requires the whole heart, the supreme affections. That's coming from Adventist Home. So what it's saying here, we wouldn't make decisions without the Lord doing this. And we would not do things to please ourselves. We want to please the Lord because he's the one that's going to bless the relationship. And that we should not allow emotions to take place. But if the Lord is directing it, you know it's going to be a relationship where love abides. Number 2, both of you need to be converted. It's not okay to be unequally yoked. And when we say unequally yoked with unbelievers, sometimes we're still the same church members. We go to church and we worship, but we are unequally yoked in the sense of our partner don't have a relationship with the Lord or is not willing to have that relationship develop. What kind of relationship you're going to have? You have one person that's all on fire for the Lord and the other one just a mediocre, just not have any interest. How can you discuss the word? How can you spend time? How will the children understand when you have two separate? Not only that, it's not okay for church members, us, to be linked with somebody that don't have a relation or don't know the Lord. So that's why we need to get somebody that is converted. Now, each of us are converted in different areas. You know, it depends on our growth, but at least we know that that person will be working towards eternal life. Neither of you have a proper idea of the meaning of obedience to God. Study the words. He that is not with me is against me, and he that gathereth not with me scattereth abroad. And simply saying, if the two of you are not walking in the same way, how can you be pleasing to the Lord? It's going to be war. And some people deliberately choose someone from the world, outside of their faith, and think they're going to be blessed when it's contrary to the will of God, when he tells us, be not unequally yoked with unbelievers. And then, like it says here, he that is not with me is against me. And yet we want the Lord's blessings. I sincerely hope that you will both become true children of God, servants to whom he can entrust responsibilities. Then peace and confidence and faith will come to you. Yes, you may both be happy and consistent Christian, but it won't happen unless you allow the Lord, and you choose through the help of the Lord and his direction, someone that you're equally yoked with. Now, it doesn't mean the person, you're going to have the same personality in the same, might have different personality, but your goal is to be saved. Your goal is to be obedient to God. That's what it's talking about. Number 3, there needs to be compatibility. Compatibility is vitally essential to a happy marriage. Lifelong wretchedness, which may result from a union of those not adapted to each other. Now, sometimes culture creates a problem like that too. Unless you get and understand the culture, a lot of times we enter in relationship and we don't understand the other person's culture, and it creates difficulty, and then we blame each other. That shouldn't be. The world is full of misery and sin today in consequence of ill assorted marriage, means the results of the choices that we have made. In many cases, it takes only a few months for the husband and wife to realize that their disposition can never blend. And the result is that discord prevail in the home where only the love and harmony of heaven should exist. So there's war, fighting, this one trying to control that one trying to control. I want you to do it this way. Why can't you do it this way? All because we never made God our center, or we think we knew what was best for us. And so, in the work that I do, I see that 3 months inside of the marriage, individuals realize I made a mistake. But if you're following God's principle, you're married and you're going to be married. We can't just jump in and jump out of marriage. So that's why it's so important to follow the principles that he has put in place. All right, disparity of age. Now, this one shows up a lot. There is a warning against disparity of age of those contemplating marriage, which could result in impairing the health of the younger partner and could rob the children of physical and mental health. Now, this is simply talking about, and this is coming from Too Selective Message, page 482, paragraph 4, and a lot of it is coming from there. Now, what is stating, it's not talking about if your partner is, I'm talking about either the partner is 5 years difference or so. That's not what it's talking about. This person is 25 years older than you, 20 years, 50, and a big disparity in age. And it creates a problem because what this other younger person is used to listening to or doing is totally contrary for a person that's older. That creates problems in even the communication, because that person is from a different century. And so they talk this way and this other person is bringing in, and it creates a problem. So the Lord said, be careful. Be careful in choosing. Don't let this be a great disparity of age between the two of you. And it also affect the children. Now, when she said it affect the health, what she's talking about, let's say I'm using an example. The male, the husband, is 20 years older than his wife. This is an example now. And he's sickly, got high blood pressure, maybe diabetes or whatever. It says this person now will, the health of that person will affect the individual that they're married to. Not only in them having to be helping them with their illness, but also it says the sick one sap the strength from the younger. And that's what the servant of the Lord brought out. It says, sickly men have often won the affections of women apparently healthy. And because they love each other, they felt themselves at perfect liberty to marry, neither considering that by their union, the wife must be a sufferer more or less because of the diseased husband. If those who thus enter the marriage relation were alone concerned, the sin would not be so great. Their offsprings are compelled to be sufferers by the disease transmitted by them. So what the servant of the Lord is saying, a lot of times when we do that and disparity of age and the one is a little sickly, it not only affects the wife, but it also affects if they have children. Remember, you got to raise these children. All the issues from the parent, because the children receive portions of what their parents give them. All right, the genealogy, let's put it that way. So what she's saying here, let's say you got the father is the father is 50 years old and the wife is 30 or 20 something, and they got these children. And he's got to, how is he going to discipline this child? How is she going to discipline this child? She's in a different age category. That's one or two. How will that balance? That's going to create war. What about the physical illnesses that's going to be transmitted to the children? So what the servant of the Lord is saying, be careful when you're choosing. If you're following God's way, he'll show you what to do so that you'll have the best out of life and not the issues of this sickness and all of that. You know, we know that individuals get sick, but don't enter a marriage with all of this already taking place, is what the servant of the Lord is saying. All right, then you need to look at financial responsibility. We are told it's the husband's position to take care of the financial responsibility. In today's society, you got both people working, but we got some guidelines of what, and everything is placed on that husband. He has to be financially sound to be able to, don't jump up and get married and you're living with your mother. And the wife got to come and live with the mother. It's got to be, we're going to be able to have a place where where we can start our life, even if it's one room. In somewhere you're renting a 1-bedroom apartment, you'll be able to start together and then branch out. But you both got to be able, and for a woman to feel safe, she needs to know the utilities are paid or will be paid. The house note or the rent will be paid, that they will have food. That's what God has designed. Now, that doesn't mean she's called a helpmeet. That doesn't mean if the wife is working that she don't put some funds together, but God's made the provision that the spouse is to be the one, before we get up and decide to be married, that yes, financially, I have a little something that we can work with, and I do have a job, a steady job, and I have been stable in my employment. All these needs to be in place, but we don't look at it. Where do you work? Most of the men, where you work? I work, oh, that's a good job. And then likewise, and going on, or they move in with each other. And the woman owned this and they move in. And what you don't understand is when the issues become, you're going to hear negative things. Get out of my house. You move in. And these things happen. Whether you're Christian or not, these things happen. And you see the other one militating against the other, and then it's war. You don't even have a car. You have to drive my car. I want my car, and all of that. These financial situation needs to be addressed. And goals need to be set. This is what we're going to do. We're going to get us the apartment, and we'll stay here. And as we accumulate, as you continue to work, I'll continue to do this. As you continue to work, we'll save towards this a certain amount until we can get our place. Not the wife doing it. If it ends up, if you've been married for a while and something happened, I'm quite sure the wife does not mind taking, but to enter a marriage where she is the one, there will be no respect. There will be nothing. And you're going to hear, I'm the one doing it. Don't tell me what to do. That will be the behavior that will be set. And that's not what God has designed. The servant of the Lord said, the man is to bring the money into the home, and so the wife can manage it. Now, it didn't say she can't work and help, but it shouldn't be she's paying the rent, the car note, and all of that. That's not a marriage. She gonna behave as the male in that environment, and that's never God's plan. So you need the ability of the partner. And you remember in the olden days when they got married, the man had to have a dowry. He had to have something to show the father that he would be able to take care of his daughter. Now, that's negated, especially now in the Western culture. But where God is concerned, we still need to be able to get that done. The ability of the partner in the marriage to sustain themselves financially also was presented as a prerequisite for a successful marriage. It is pointed out that there are those who have not acquired property and do not possess physical strength or mental energy to acquire property, who have been in haste to marry and who have taken upon themselves responsibility which they had no just sense. You got people now, they have credit card, 2 people, they got all these people they owe. They got, some of them have child support, and they owe all of these things. And instead of sitting down together and working together to get rid of all those debts before they enter the marriage relationship, they bring that in there, that creates more issues. So that's what we're talking about. This is something, and the Lord is never going, whatever that he put here, he's never going to, the person he sends will never be in this condition. Maintain mental and physical health. Most men and women have acted in entering the marriage relation as though the only question for them to settle was whether they loved each other. Oh, we love each other. They don't know where they're going to live. They don't have a decent job. They owe everybody, but we love each other. Doesn't work like that, because when you get in, it's going to create problems. But they should realize that the responsibility rests upon them in the marriage relation further than this, than love each other. And we can't breathe without each other. They should consider whether their offsprings will possess physical and mental and moral health. Do you know the servant of the Lord tells us, and I didn't put it in here because it was too much information. Put in there how you got to look at the parents and see what the genealogy is. What was that? Let me use an example. If there's mental illness in the family tree, it's going to come through to one of the children. But you don't have to believe me. Research it. It's going to come to people that are mentally ill, and this is my profession. When we look, we see granddaddy, then it jump a generation, and then daddy has it, and then it jump a generation, and then the grandchildren. That's what it is. Substance abuse, any kind of that kind of behavior. Don't have to be substance. We're going to say addictive behavior. Mental illnesses, they are transferred just like physical illness now. They come through the family line. And the servant of the Lord is saying, we need to find out. It doesn't matter that it doesn't say you're not going to marry the person. It simply say you need to find out so you know what you're dealing with, so that you will know how to work around this relationship as you prepare to get married. Number 7, let the questions be raised. Will this union help me heavenward? Is this relationship with this man, are we on the same page where God is concerned, that we are moving towards heaven? Or is one pulling this way and the other pulling the other way? We need to ask ourselves, will it increase my love for God? Will it enlarge my sphere of usefulness in this life? If these reflections presents no drawback, then in the fear of God, move forward. But if you sit there and say, when you look at it, and you got to be open, these things that we're talking about, these things to make the proper choice, you can't be emotions. It's got to be reality. Let me look at it this way so that I can make, that's all the Lord is saying for us to do. The choice of a life companion should be such as best to secure physical, mental, and spiritual well-being for parents and for children, such as will enable both parents and children to bless their fellow men and to honor their Creator. And so we have to look at that question. But as I said, most of the time, and I'll change it when we get married. No, we do not. The character of that person has been molded from 7 years old and on. They're going to become and have been chosen to become who they are. We're not going to change. You know how many women out here, when we get married, we'll change it. No, that's a lie. That has to be addressed. Awareness have to be, and it's addressed before we even get into this marriage relationship. Number 8, check past behaviors clearly and make assessment, I should say accurate assessment. Before giving your hand in marriage, every woman should inquire whether he with whom she is about to unite her destiny is worthy. If she hear that he was a womanizer, or her, is he or she now, was a womanizer, or they've been with how many people, or they married how many times, some red flags need to go up. Is this person worthy, or am I just another peg in the whole realm of things? What has been his past record? Is he an abuser, physically, sexually, emotionally? Is he good to the people around him? Does he work? These are things that the servant, none of this information is coming from me. It's coming from the servant of the Lord, the spirit of prophecy that is to guide our lives. So this is what is she saying. Is his life pure? Or, you're not certain. Is the love which he expresses of a noble, elevated character, or is it a mere emotional fun? I love you. I love the way you look. The words coming out, not a real consideration, just mouthing stuff. It's not going to work if it's just mouthing, because when hard times come, remember that's just emotions, and we talk about that. Then the situation changed. So you got to see, is he just opening his mouth and saying that? Has he the traits of character that will make her happy? These are things that needs to be evaluated before we jump and get into the marriage relationship. Then and it says, can she find true peace and joy in his affection? Or will she always have distrust of what he is saying and doing? Will she be allowed to preserve her individuality, or must her judgment and conscience be surrendered to the control of what it's saying? And this is a serious matter. The Lord wants us to be individuals. Man in the marriage, the woman in the marriage. What it means simply is, it don't mean you living in one room and I'm living. That's not what it's saying. What it's simply saying is, if the wife sees something blue, and she knows, and she says, this box is blue. And the husband said, no, it's not, it's orange. Neither one of them supposed to change. She's not supposed to say, well, you're stupid because it's blue. Don't you see it's blue? Neither should he say, well, you're ignorant because it's orange. No, neither one is supposed to force the others or compel the others according to their judgment and conscience. What they should be able to say, well, honey, I don't see it orange. And I know you're not blind, but I don't see it orange. I see it blue. I love you anyway. And you're done. You don't puff and blow and you didn't see it that way. It should come together. And then ultimately is a compromise. If it's something, I want a Cadillac, you want a Mercedes, but we can't afford but this. And instead of fighting and seeing it, you must be crazy or whatever, you sit down and you say, let's look at it. What does the budget state? What will this do for our savings? And together, not making me do what you want me to do and you do. That's what the Lord is talking about. As a disciple of Christ, she is not her own. She has been bought with a price. So therefore, she shouldn't be forced. And this is an assessment of the behavior. How will I know? So, and that goes for the man too. What we just finished reading is for both. Will these things take place? Now, these are the assessment check. I only did a minute portion of it. These are things we need to contemplate with God at the end to know, are we moving in the right direction? That's what it's saying, not our emotions and what we feel should be. Now, how will I know this is the one? We're going to say to ourselves, having a proper knowledge can prevent lifelong misery. Let those who are contemplating marriage weigh every sentiment, what we just finished talking about, and watch every development of character in the one with whom they think to reunite their destiny. Just be cognizant. A lot of times we blind. When they say love is blind, we can't see. We are wrapped up. But it's saying a sensible person with common sense will weigh all the evidence before they give themselves to this individual. Let every step forward, let every step towards a marriage alliance be characterized by modesty, simplicity, sincerity, and an earnest purpose to please and honor God, not hypocrisy. Marriage affects the afterlife, both in this world and the world to come. A sincere Christian will make no plans that God cannot approve. You see, and we go around, Lord, you understand? No, if we follow his directions and allow him, it's going to take the proper course. God will bless. Carefully, we need to be careful and unbiased with our examination, and this will be needed. You got to, like I said, we can't have emotion. I think and I feel. It's got to be unbiased. We got to be really, I see this. Don't say, I see that he's real stingy, but I can change it when we get married. No, it won't. It has to be addressed, all this situation, because the person is not going to change when they get married. In fact, if they're doing it when you're in a courtship, and usually people are more open and more upfront when you're in courtship and they're stingy, can you imagine when you get married? The step you're about to take is one of the most important in your life and should not be taken hastily. While you may love, do not love blindly. You have to be able to see, examine carefully to see if your married life will be happy or inharmonious and wretched. Few have correct views of the marriage relationship. Remember, we talked about it earlier. They got this fairy story thing because that's what they learned from the culture we live in. That's not so. I don't care how long you've dated, and how you think you know each other. It's a brand new story when you get together and you're living with each other every day, and every day you begin. That's why you have to be prepared. But if you could know quarter of the heartaches of men and women that are bound by marriage vow in chains that they cannot and dare not break. So the servant of the Lord said, if you only knew, don't do it without God's authorization and looking at the blueprint and the guidelines before we jump, because even then it's going to be difficult. However, you will at least have some things that you already know and you're aware of to work with. But when you go in there, because it's a fairy story, you're asking yourself for misery. Other qualities to consider in the person. The qualities a man should look for in a prospective wife. Let the young man, and it's also the older ones, seek one to stand by his side who is fitted to bear her share of life's burden. One whose influence will ennoble, refine him, and will make him happy in her love. And that's what we are taught. The wife will help to make the man's character together. Here are things that should be considered. Will the one you marry, this is on the man looking now, will the one you marry bring happiness to your home? Is she an economist? Mean that, is she going to manage the money the way God had designed? Or is she going to get the money and spend it? So these are things, and those behaviors people can see before they get married, but they allow the devil to blind them so they don't see the behavior of this individual, truly see the behavior of this individual before they commit their lives. Or will she, if married, not only choose all our own earnings, use all our own earnings, but all of yours to gratify her vanity, a love of appearance? Are her principles correct in this direction? Has she anything now to depend upon? She's saying, does she have a little savings somewhere? Is it showing that she is going to take good care of the money when it comes in and take care of the household? And you can see all that frivolity before on both sides. He might not be interested in personal appearance and frivolity. He might be wrapped up in cars and motorcycles and other things. But you can see these things, but you got to be wide awake to be able to see. I know that to the mind of a man infatuated with love and thoughts of marriage, these questions will be brushed aside as though they were of no consequence. Should be no consequence, but these should be duly addressed. But these things should be duly considered, for they have a bearing upon the future life. Will she be one who will be patient and painstaking? Or will she cease to care for your mother and father at the very time when they need a strong son to lean upon? You know, let's say the parents are sick and son need to go forward. Is this one woman or the wife that he's going to marry stop him from taking care of his parents? Or is she's going to join with him and say, honey, let's do this. Let's find a way in which to make sure that they're safe and we can take care of them. That's what it's asking. Or will she withdraw him from the society to carry out her plans and to suit her own pleasure, and to leave father and mother who, instead of gaining an affectionate daughter, will have lost a son? And that's what the daughter-in-law is what she's saying. Will this daughter-in-law withdraw him from the family, or will she together work with him so he can together be able to take care of the needs of the parents, especially knowing that these parents were involved before they get married? Now, so that was the qualities, and this is the qualities a woman should look for in the prospective husband. Before giving her hand in marriage, every woman should inquire whether he with whom she's about to unite her destiny is worthy. Same thing for the man. What has been his past record? Is his life pure? Is the love that he expresses of a noble, elevated character, or is it a mere emotional fondness? Has he the traits and character that will make her happy? Can she find true peace and joy in his affection? Will she be allowed to preserve her individuality, or must her judgment and conscience be surrendered to the control of her husband? And a lot of husbands have wives submit. That's not what's written. The wife will submit as in the Lord. If the man is behaving as in the Lord, husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church and gave his life. What it's saying, if the husband if she can find in her husband the things that he has done, that God has asked him to do as a husband, the wife will gladly be a partner with him in all of that. But you can't ask a woman to submit when you're not paying the bills, you're not working, you're abusive in every aspect, and nobody knows your personal life and what you're doing. How are you going to ask a woman to submit to that? It says, as unto the Lord. And so what the Lord is going to do, just like he takes care of the church, and it didn't say he took care of the church because they were good people. As he gave his life, he died for us, the church, which is the people, while we were yet sinners. So it's not, I'm going to pay the bills if you're good to me. And once a husband does what God asked him, I promise you, the woman will come in compliance, and you'll have this marriage where you have the equal partners moving in the same direction. Will body and soul, thoughts and purpose be preserved pure and holy? These questions have a vital bearing upon the well-being of every woman who enter the marriage relations. So you see, you got qualities, but the man, not only do you have the principles that we gained, those 8 that we talked about, but you have to look at qualities within these individuals. But like I said, most of the time we don't get to the number 1. We do what we want to do. And that's why the marriage that's why so much problems in the marriage. If he does not respect and honor his mother, this is the husband, will he manifest respect and love, kindness and attention towards his wife? When the novelty of the marriage is over, will he love me still? These are still qualities that she has to look forward to or look for. Let a young woman accept as a life companion only one who possesses pure, manly traits of character. And the Lord is specifying that, the servant of the Lord wrote that, manly character. What God had designed a man to be and do as the head, or should be a partner with his spouse. Manly traits of character, one who is diligent, aspiring, honest, one who loves and fears God. That is what she needs to look for, the quality. Shun those who are irreverent. Shun one who is a lover of idleness, meaning lazy. He might go to work and then come back and just watch the game. Don't help with the children. Don't try to help with things that are around the house, showing love. That's what she's talking about. Shun one who is a scoffer of holy things, make light of what is written and what God is requiring of his people. Avoid the society of one who uses profane language. Now, everybody should know that. Or is addicted to the use of even one glass of liquor. Now, we're going to take out the addiction and add more. Any kind of addiction to pornography, addiction to overeating, addiction, whatever the addiction. So don't just put it to the use of alcohol or drugs. Addiction to any, because the Bible said first of all, we're not supposed to be with the liquor. But at that time when the servant of the Lord was writing it, that was rampant. It's in a different way now. But any form of addiction, we need to be careful, because it's going to ruin the marriage and the children's life. Listen not to the proposal of a man who has no realization of his responsibility to God. Lord, when we read all of this and understand it, if we would do these things, we would have happy marriages. Now I'm coming on towards the end. How to prepare. A necessity of careful preparation. Before assuming the responsibility involved in marriage, young men and women and older people too should have such an experience in practical life as will prepare them for its duty. You can't get a person that ain't never worked. Either way, or they don't know how to cook, or they don't know how to do this and jump up and think that it's going to work. They need to have know what the experience in life, the practical experience in life is about. So that can come into the marriage relation. Early marriages are not to be discouraged. A relation so important as marriage and so far reaching in his result should not be entered upon hastily, without sufficient preparation, and before the mental and physical power are well developed. The heart yearns for human love, but this love is not strong enough or pure enough or precious enough to supply the place of the love of Jesus. So that's why Christ has to be the head of all of this household, and everything goes through him and to him. Now, counseling may help individual gain a deeper awareness of decision. While you looking and preparing and choosing, doing premarital counseling it really helps, because it gives some awareness of what the persons need to be able to look at and how to see it. Although there's a list of things, sometimes we as human beings don't know how to be able to process or develop awareness of it. So a lot of times counseling helps. And what counseling will address: communication, the proper way of communicating beliefs and values, the finances, same thing we went through, the marriage role, the role of the both people in the marriage, affection, intimacy, and sex or sexuality, parenting and children, when we have the children out to parent, as a unit, family relations, decision-making, dealing with anger or any kind of issues that may arouse, and how to spend quality time. So a lot of times being able to do that also give a good perspective of what to expect or what to do to maintain a good marriage relationship when it takes place. Now it's our choice. Why is it necessary for God to choose a life partner? Because we don't know individual. We think we do. But God knows that individual inside out. He also knows the end of what is going to take place. So if he chooses, he would choose the best person for you and I, rather than us choosing. And I think he's nice. I think she is. And then when you get married and the real person come out, we want a divorce. If you are supposed to choose your friends carefully, you must be even more careful when it comes to choosing your future spouse. Adam was very blessed that God designed his life companion with his own hands and from within him. Adam's choice was easy, since Eve was not just the only, and she was just the only woman. But see, God chose and brought her to Adam, but the perfect woman. So you say his choice was easy, but as we studied earlier, degradation have come in and make everything worse. Well, if he had Adam and Eve, God chose Adam and Eve and put them together, what about us today? 6,000 years in sin. We really do need a savior to do that. The rest of us have a little more difficult time. Since none of us is perfect and have many more people to choose from, ours are different. Because this decision is so important, God has not left us without guidance in this area of our lives. Without God, directions will fail. So he has to be an intricate part of our decision making. Without God, we're doomed. Only in our Savior, can the wife find wisdom, strength, and grace to meet the cares and responsibilities and sorrows of life. She should make him her strength and her guide. Let women give herself to Christ or themselves to Christ before giving themselves to any earthly friend and enter into no relationship which will conflict with this. So it's just simply saying this lady needs to make sure the Lord is the center of her life so she'll know how to become a real wife, a mother, a friend, while Christ is in the pinnacle of her life. Those who find true happiness must have the blessing of heaven upon all that they possess and all that they do. Let every step towards a marriage alliance be characterized by modesty, simplicity, sincerity, and an earnest purpose to please and honor God. Marriage affects the afterlife both in this world and in the world to come. A sincere Christian will make no plans that God cannot approve. So if we mess up in this life, it's going to affect us from being saved, is what it says in the afterlife. So that's why it needs to be real careful with God's help to know what we need to do. So all it's asking us to do here is the ultimate decision is up to us. Do we want a happy or an unhappy marriage? If those who are contemplating marriage would not have miserable, unhappy reflections after marriage, they must make it a subject of serious, earnest reflection now. Look at it. This step taken unwisely is one of the most effective means of ruining the usefulness of a young man and woman. It is from the marriage hour that many men and women date their success or failure in this life. From they know if they're going to make it or not, and their hopes for the future life. It is from the marriage hour. From that time, they know, oh my God, this ain't going to work. But if they put Christ in it, he will be the center. I wish I could make the youth see and feel their danger, especially the danger of making unhappy marriage. And remember, the unhappy marriage affect the children. Then we have children that are defective, and they go into society defective. Then they married people and the whole thing, and you got this cycle going around, all because of the choice. So remember, true love is a high and holy principle, altogether different in the character from that love which is awakened by impulse, which suddenly die when severely tested. When it says it's a high principle, love is a principle. You don't love the person because they did this and they did. You love them, period. Whether they get sick or they do, you love them. That's what Christ does for you and I, and we're not good. We get up off of our knees and we tell the Lord we're sorry, and we go back and do the same thing or something else. He loves us anyway. That's what love is. It's not, let me put you in this box, and if you behave this way, I will love you, or if you don't, I won't. That's not love. That's impulse. True love is not a strong, fiery, impetuous passion. On the contrary, it is calm and deep in its nature. It looks beyond mere externals and is attracted by the qualities alone. It is wise and discriminating. Its devotion is real and abiding. Until we can get that, we don't know what love is. Love is a precious gift which we receive from Jesus. Pure and holy affection is not a feeling, but a principle. Those who are actuated by true love are neither unreasonable nor blind. So when you get yourself blind and we got to do something, it's not love. May the Lord help us to follow his principles and to follow his guidelines. Now, all these references came from the spirit of prophecy. Adventist home, ministry to healing, patriarchs and prophets. May the Lord help us all, and as you have time, you can study in some more on what God wants for his people, which is happy marriages. So with that, I'll have closing prayer. Father, we have not always been obedient to your call. We have wandered from the blueprint, but we thank you so much for not giving up on us, for sending us and reminding us of what you want us to do and how you want us to do it. Watch over our brethren, people near and far, and help us to be aware and cognizant of all that you have in the plan of salvation for our lives, and help us to be obedient. Again, we thank you for this study. Be with those that will look at it and listen to it. Bless, I pray, and thank you for this moment and for today. In your son's name, amen.